I sued my boss for firing me while pregnant and won $5 million. They called me a star employee, right up until the moment I told them I was pregnant. My boss, Mr. Hayes, fired me 6 weeks later, claiming my performance suddenly fell short. He thought a simple termination letter would make me disappear. Instead, I sued their massive corporation for pregnancy discrimination and walked away with a $5 million verdict, proving my career was worth more than their bias. I worked as the marketing director for Apex Global, a huge tech company. For 3 years, I dedicated my life to that job. I took very little time off. My performance reviews were always perfect. I consistently brought in the biggest clients. I was seen as the future of the department. My husband and I had been trying to start a family for years. When I finally found out I was pregnant, I was overjoyed. I waited until I was past the first trimester, around week 14, to share the news with my immediate boss, Mr. Hayes. I remember his reaction perfectly. It wasn't happiness or even congratulations. He just leaned back in his chair, pursed his lips, and said, "That's inconvenient timing, OP. You know Q4 is our busiest season. Who is going to handle the Smith account while you're gone?" The change in the office atmosphere was instant and chilling. Before, I was praised. Now, I was scrutinized. Within 2 weeks, Mr. Hayes started documenting fake problems. He criticized a marketing campaign I had launched that was already breaking records. He suddenly insisted I needed to be micromanaged. He stripped me of my most important client accounts, claiming I needed to focus on less stressful tasks. My workplace, which had been my second home, became a hostile environment. I knew exactly what was happening. They saw my pregnancy as a liability, not a blessing. They were trying to build a paper trail to fire me legally. 6 weeks after I announced my pregnancy, Mr. Hayes called me into his office. He handed me a single piece of paper. He claimed the company was undergoing a strategic reorganization and that my position was being eliminated due to performance inefficiencies. I was 18 weeks pregnant, unemployed, and staring at a termination letter based on outright lies. The company offered me a severance package, 3 months' salary and insurance, but the deal was contingent on signing a lengthy legal document, a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, that would force me to forever remain silent about the real reasons for my termination. If I signed it, I would get the cash, but I could never sue them for discrimination. I was terrified. I needed the money for the baby and the bills, but if I signed, I would be agreeing that I was fired for poor performance, ruining my professional reputation forever. I would be letting them win. I walked out of that office and refused to sign the NDA. I decided that my dignity and the future of my daughter was worth more than 3 months' pay. I was one woman, pregnant and unemployed, fighting a massive corporation with unlimited resources and a team of high-powered defense lawyers. How do you legally expose a company that has carefully constructed a paper trail of fake, poor performance to hide their criminal act of pregnancy discrimination? And what specific law gives you the power to demand millions in punitive damages?
I was unemployed, pregnant, and going up against a billion-dollar tech giant. Most lawyers I called refused to take the case. They all said the same thing. Apex Global is too big. They have a massive HR department that documents everything. Unless you have a smoking gun, it's your word against theirs. They were right. Apex Global hadn't just fired me. They had constructed a fake reality. They had created a paper trail of performance reviews and emails that made it look like I was a terrible employee. This is a standard corporate tactic called pretexting. They invent a legal reason, poor performance, to cover up the illegal reason, pregnancy. Finally, I found Elena, a fierce employment rights attorney who specialized in Title VII cases. She explained that under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, it is a federal violation to treat a pregnant employee differently than others. But Elena was honest. OP, she said, the law is on your side, but the evidence is not. In court, the judge will look at their documents. They have charts showing efficiency drops. They have memos from Mr. Hayes. To win this, we need to prove those documents are lies. We need to catch them in a contradiction. We filed the lawsuit in federal court. The response from Apex Global was aggressive. They denied all wrongdoing and moved to dismiss the case immediately. They buried us in paperwork during the discovery phase, sending over 5,000 pages of irrelevant documents to hide the truth and drain my savings. I felt hopeless. Reading through the files, I saw emails where Mr. Hayes had lied to HR, claiming I missed deadlines that I actually met. It was a smear campaign. Then, during a strategy meeting, Elena asked me a crucial question. OP, think back to the termination meeting, the moment he fired you. Did he say anything specific about the baby? I froze. I realized I had forgotten to mention the most important detail. I didn't just remember what he said. I have it. I live in a one-party consent state. This means that as long as one person in the conversation, me, consents to the recording, it is perfectly legal to record a conversation without the other person knowing. On the day Mr. Hayes fired me, I had a bad feeling. Before I walked into his office, I had turned on the voice memo app on my phone and slipped it into my suit pocket. I played the recording for Elena. The audio was crystal clear. It didn't match the company's official performance narrative at all. In the recording, Mr. Hayes didn't mention missed deadlines or efficiency. Instead, his voice was condescending. He said, "Look, OP, this job requires 110% focus. With the situation coming up in a few months, your priorities are naturally going to shift to being a mother. That's biology. We need someone who is married to the job, not someone distracted by family planning. It's just a business decision." Elena's eyes went wide. She smiled for the first time. This recording was the nuclear weapon we needed. It proved direct evidence of discriminatory intent. He explicitly stated that my biology and motherhood were the reasons for termination, not my performance. But here was the strategic twist. We didn't release the recording yet. Elena said, "We're going to let Mr. Hayes lie under oath first. We will let him commit to his poor performance story in his sworn deposition. And once he has trapped himself in the lie, then, and only then, will we play the tape." We had the smoking gun, but we had to set the trap perfectly. How do you force a confident, arrogant executive to lie on record multiple times, knowing that you have the digital proof in your pocket that will not only win your lawsuit, but potentially end his entire career?
The trap was set. Now we just had to wait for Mr. Hayes to walk into it. The setting was a conference room in downtown San Francisco. It was time for the deposition. This is a formal legal interview where witnesses must answer questions under oath. A court reporter types every word. If you lie here, it is perjury, a serious crime. Mr. Hayes walked in wearing a $3,000 suit surrounded by 3 corporate lawyers from Apex Global. He looked bored. He looked at me with pure arrogance, like I was a waste of his time. He thought this was just a formality before he crushed me. Elena, my lawyer, started gently. She let him get comfortable. She asked him to explain, on the record, exactly why he fired me. Hayes cleared his throat and told his rehearsed lie perfectly. OP was a good employee initially, but her focus drifted. She missed key metrics. She was disorganized. It was purely a performance-based decision. I had no choice. Elena nodded. pretending to take notes. She let him talk for 20 minutes, digging his own grave deeper and deeper. Then she tightened the net. "Mr. Hayes," Elena asked, locking eyes with him, "did OP's pregnancy play any factor in your decision to terminate her employment?" "Absolutely not," Hayes said firmly. "I run a meritocracy. Personal lives are irrelevant." Elena pressed harder. "Did you ever make any comments to OP suggesting that being a mother would make her less valuable to the company? Did you ever say her biology was a problem?" Hayes laughed, a scoffing, ugly laugh. "That is ridiculous. I would never say something like that. That's offensive. I resent the accusation." "Objection," his lawyer yelled. "Asked and answered. Move on." Elena smiled. She reached into her briefcase. She didn't pull out a document. She pulled out a small USB drive. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper that echoed in the silent room, "I would like to enter Exhibit G into the record. This is a digital audio recording taken on the day of the termination meeting." The color drained from Hayes' face instantly. His lawyers froze. They didn't know the tape existed because we hadn't released it yet. Elena pressed play. The room filled with the sound of Hayes' voice from that day. It was loud and clear. "Your priorities are naturally going to shift to being a mother. That's biology. We need someone who is married to the job." The recording played for 2 minutes. When it finished, the silence in the room was deafening. You could hear the air conditioner humming. Hayes was pale. He was shaking. He looked at his expensive lawyers, but they wouldn't look at him. They were furiously packing up their papers. They knew what had just happened. Hayes had committed perjury on the record. He had lied under oath about the central fact of the case. His credibility was destroyed. The company's defense, that this was about performance, was exposed as a total fraud. Elena leaned forward. "Mr. Hayes, now that you've heard your own voice, would you like to amend your previous answer about whether biology was a factor?" Hayes opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His lead lawyer stood up, slammed his notebook shut, and said, "We need a recess, immediately." They ran out of the room. 10 minutes later, the lead lawyer came back alone. His arrogance was gone. He looked defeated. He said to Elena, "We are done here. Don't file that transcript with the court yet. We want to talk settlement numbers." We had won, but I didn't just want my job back. I wanted them to pay for every sleepless night, every tear, and every moment of fear they caused me and my unborn child. They wanted to settle quickly to keep the tape secret, but they underestimated how angry I was. They offered me $500,000 to go away. I laughed in their faces. How did my lawyer leverage that single audio recording to turn a $500,000 offer into a record-breaking $5 million payout, forcing the CEO of a billion-dollar company to personally sign the check? The deposition room recording destroyed Apex Global's defense instantly. Mr. Hayes had committed perjury and explicitly admitted that he fired me because of my pregnancy. The entire defense team's goal shifted from winning to containment. They were desperate to keep that tape out of the public record. The lead defense attorney called my lawyer, Elena, the next day. He immediately offered to settle the lawsuit for $500,000. It was a life-changing amount of money, but I refused. I didn't want charity. I wanted justice, and I wanted them to feel the pain they inflicted on me and my family. Elena advised me that our position was stronger than just a standard settlement. She said, "OP, they don't just fear paying you, they fear the tape being played in open court. That could trigger a federal investigation, massive corporate fines, and ruin Mr. Hayes' career. We are negotiating from a position of power. We use the strategy of punitive damages, payments designed to punish the company, not just compensate me. We broke down our demand for $5 million into 3 clear categories, making it impossible for them to argue the value. Economic damages, $450,000. This covered my lost wages,
benefits, and back pay for the 2 years I was out of work, plus the high cost of finding a new job. Emotional distress and litigation costs, $1,050,000. This was the compensation for the anxiety, depression, professional reputational damage, and the pain of facing financial ruin while pregnant. Alina argued this damage was multiplied because the harassment was intentional. Punitive damages, $3,500,000. This was the massive penalty, specifically targeting Apex Global and Mr. Hayes personally for the egregious nature of the fraud. Elena made it clear, pay the penalty or the tape goes public. The negotiation lasted for 3 excruciating days. Every hour was a battle over hundreds of thousands of dollars. The defense team tried every trick to chip away at the number. They claimed I was difficult to work with. They claimed my anxiety was pre-existing. But Elena held firm. She had one simple response. We are ready for trial. The jury will decide how much Mr. Hayes' casual contempt for federal law is worth. On the 3rd day, the defense team buckled. They finally agreed to the total figure of $5 million. The settlement was signed, sealed, and paid. Crucially, the final agreement mandated that the CEO of Apex Global, not just the legal department, had to personally sign the final settlement check and the formal letter of apology to me. It was a victory for my dignity. Mr. Hayes faced the consequences internally. The company was forced to distance itself from him. He was quietly fired, not for performance, but for exposing the company to a massive $5 million liability. His arrogance cost him his entire career. I didn't take the $5 million and retire. I took the money, paid my team, invested wisely, and most importantly, I used the financial security to focus on my daughter, who was born healthy and strong right in the middle of the lawsuit. I sued them not for money, but to prove that my value as a mother and a professional was non-negotiable. I refused to let fear silence the truth. The lesson. Corporate discrimination is rarely about performance. It's about liability and control. If you face wrongful termination, especially when protected by laws like Title VII, never sign an NDA for a small severance package. That NDA is not protecting the company's money. It is protecting the manager's career. Your refusal to sign is the first step toward unlocking the massive punitive damages that can truly hold a billion-dollar corporation accountable.